question from one of our audience members. Thank you, Tariq, for your insights. Where do you find your resources for writing your books and lectures? Let's say I want to be directed towards the same sources you read. What are they? Where are you finding them? How can I find them? And finally, why those sources?
I didn't understand the first part.
The sources for your books and lectures. What are the sources that you read?
Well, I read very widely, and I spend a lot of time in libraries, which are very unfashionable these days for reading purposes. And you can find a lot of books there. Which I strongly recommend many of you visit, because you don't get everything on videos and television or the web. The web is very good and very important and very interesting, but it doesn't have everything, and there's a lot of misinformation on it too. And it's, it has to be used because it's very important now for us, all of us, but I think libraries are still extremely important. And when I was researching, for instance, my novels, which are historical novels, the Islam Quintet, it's a set of 5 novels, I did 2 things. I visited the countries and spent 3 or 4 months in them, just traveling around, not talking to many people, just observing, looking at the vegetation, smelling the herbs and all that, and also doing large amounts of reading. And the most difficult time I had was in Sicily, where everyone I met said there's nothing on the Arab period in Sicily. And then I went into a tiny bookshop in Palermo, and the guy said, "What do you mean there's nothing on the Arab period in Sicily? Who told you that?" I said, "All my Sicilian friends." He said, "They are ignorant." And I said, "Well, what do you have?" And he said, "There's a 6-volume history written by Michele Amari in the 19th century." I said, "Where is it?" He said, "There." So I got it. And though my Italian is, sort of very bad, I sat down with a dictionary and found stuff that I wanted to read. If you really have to look hard in order to find some things, which is why the people who in the past, over the last thousands of years, have burnt books, have really cut us off from history. The book burners. In whatever culture. I mean, the burning of the library in Alexandria, of course, is the most famous one, but not only. I mean, in Granada in 1492, the year Christopher Columbus supposedly discovered this continent, there was a huge book burning in the large square in Granada of all the works in Arabic of Islam. And then some scholars, Christian scholars, came and pleaded with the church and said, "Do not burn the books of medicine and astronomy and geography, because without them we can't, you're attacking ourselves, because all these books have been written by the great Spanish Muslim scholars." And so they managed to save some of these books. But by and large, a lot of books which you had just one manuscript were burnt. So we don't know what we've lost. As you know, in the library in Alexandria, when that was burnt, we lost some of the greatest plays of ancient Greece. I mean, Aristophanes wrote hundreds of plays, and only a few have survived. So what this barbaric, and it's largely done by people who fear ideas in the written word, and they burned them. Sometimes for civilizations that were, the Baghdad library was first burnt by the Mongols in the 15th century. 13th century, they burned the library in Baghdad. And then the next wave was with they didn't burn the library, but the library was looted and museums were looted with this last occupation. People saw important historic documents just littering the streets of Baghdad. So one wants not to do that, and that's where you find both visiting a country and talking to people, but also reading. And in this country, I'm told that a majority of the population doesn't have passports, which, I can understand because it's a huge country, so you don't need, but it is always worth traveling and looking at the rest of the world.